The filibuster has been weaponized to intensify partisan division. The filibuster is a wicked tool used to kill legislation supported by the majority of Americans of all political parties. And that's true for protecting the right to vote and gun safety legislation and immigration reform and codifying Roe versus Wade. The filibuster thwarts the will of the people. Today's filibuster doesn't encourage debate. It promotes cowardice. Senators can torpedo bills without saying a single word in public, or even stepping to the floor of the United States Senate.
It's unbelievable. We've made this so freaking ugly and easy.
The problem is, if it's being used as a spur to bipartisan discussions, that works. We saw it work with the CARES Act. But if it's used simply to stop something, in other words, if one side or the other just doesn't want to even talk about the subject, what you're talking about is stone cold obstruction. And that's where we are today. Unfortunately, part of this body just doesn't want to talk about the issue of voting rights. How do I know that? Because we brought up a motion to proceed 3 times and it was voted down 3 times. A motion to proceed to have a discussion about this issue. The only reason we're having this debate today is that the majority leader found a rule that, frankly, I never heard of, that enabled us to bring this bill to the floor. It wasn't because the other side said, oh, let's discuss voting rights. What we have now, Mr. President, is not a filibuster. It's a second cousin once removed of a filibuster. It doesn't require any effort. It doesn't require any speeches. It doesn't require to hold the floor. All it is a dial-in, no-work filibuster. Strom Thurmond would have loved this filibuster. He wouldn't have had to stand here for 24 hours. And I'd venture to say if we had the rules that we have today, we wouldn't have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, because it was too easy to stop anything. That's the problem. We don't really have a filibuster. The real radical change in the filibuster rule was in 1975, when they wanted to go from 2/3 of those present voting to 60 votes, but inadvertently we created the no-effort filibuster. And that's what we have now. I would submit that a talking filibuster, which is what we're going to be proposing in a few minutes, would be the real spur to bipartisanship, because everybody would want to get it over with.
Joe Manchin said he was for the talking filibuster. I played you that little clip of Joe Manchin saying he was for the talking filibuster. But then when the rubber met the road, he was a no. No, he wasn't for the talking filibuster. This is a cowardly, sycophantic, threatened Republican Party. You know what's crazy? Yesterday during the press conference, Biden actually said that he hears from Republican members of the Senate, and they want to vote for voting rights. They want to, they want to create an environment that is very democratic. They aren't against it, blah, blah, blah. But they feel threatened. They feel threatened by a person who isn't even in any official office or possesses any official power any longer. You know, what's interesting is he's insinuating that they feel threatened because of a primary threat. But I think it's more of a death threat. I think what they're afraid of in the GOP is that it has gone so far that the monster that Donnie, hi Texas, that Donnie created is so out of control and so violent that Donnie can literally push a button and activate them, and they will come and kill you. Seriously.
Think about, did you ever think that one man out of office could intimidate an entire party where they're unwilling to take any vote contrary to what he thinks should be taken for fear of being defeated in a primary? I've had 5 Republican senators talk to me, bump into me, quote unquote, or sit with me, who've told me that they agree with whatever I'm talking about for them to do. But Joe, if I do it, I'm going to defeat it in a primary. We got to break that.
I don't think they're so afraid of the primary as much as they are afraid of death threats, as much as they are afraid of hang Mike Pence type stuff, as much as they're afraid of pitchforks and torches, cheeky and otherwise, and white extremism and violence. That has all been countenanced and encouraged by Donnie. I really believe that that is the kind of mob boss Donnie is. I really believe that they're afraid of death. They're afraid their families will be killed or targeted. They're afraid that their children will be kidnapped because that is what they've seen in Michigan. That is what they see against, people who stand up to Donnie. Hang Mike Pence, regardless of party affiliation. It's more of a mob boss thing than it is a Republican Democratic thing. It's more of a, hey, the people are going to ask us for stuff that we don't want to give them because we want all the money for ourselves. So let's create chaos in the masses. Let's just create chaotic situations for voting and long lines for voting and chaos in, COVID response and chaos with, vaccines and chaos in information and disinformation. And let's just turn the people inside out and upside down. Let's never be honest with them. Let's confuse them. Let's create chaos. Because in chaos, we can steal all their money. All their money. Otherwise, they're going to come and they're going to ask for things like rights. They're going to come and they're going to ask for things like wages. They're going to come and they're going to ask to unionize. They're going to come and they're going to ask for health care. They're going to come and they're going to ask for, immigration reform. And we don't feel like doing any of that. The chaos is what, the culture wars is how we win. We're not for anything. We just like to point at people and tell them who to blame and keep them resentful and angry and at each other. And that's not by color. It's not by... We're all black now. I've been telling you that for a couple of years now. We're all black now. You understand that. Anybody who works for a living, you are as ill-regarded in the Republican Party as any African American, as any Latino, as any Asian, as any Jew. We're all the same now to them. And the sooner we realize that, the more efficacious we will be. They like us one against the other because, a house divided can't stand. A 3-legged stool, it doesn't work. Nick in West Virginia.
Yes. I'd like to make a comment. I was reading the Charleston Gazette. 9 people got arrested for civil obedience when 3 days ago trying to protest to get Manchin to vote, to go on with this voting right. I believe we need to march in the streets like they did in the civil rights days. Here's the second thing that needs to be done, which people don't realize is what's happening. I'm a white man, but I think the black and brown people, we're getting more of them in this country. Eventually, the white man ain't going to have the power no more. And we're going to have to accept that. And that's just the way it is. But we got these people like Joe Manchin and these hillbillies from my state that ain't got no common sense, that don't see past tomorrow. They rule against their own best interest because of race. And it's a shame.
It is a shame because you know what's going to happen, Nick? No one's going to have power. No working man, no working woman, no single father, no single mother, no child. No one is going to have power except for the powerful. That is the sad truth about why they exploit race in the first place. It's a useful culture war tool, but there's no difference between our hopes and dreams and anybody else's.
Exactly. I'd like to make another comment. And they pit us against each other. You know that. But I think with this great resignation that went on during the pandemic, I think everybody's starting to wake up.
I hope so. Oh, my God. From your mouth to God's ears. Seriously, how can I help? How can I help you in West Virginia? How can I help? This one set upon the other, it ain't working.